This is a description and examples for one of the unethical persuasion techniques, specifically the one called the red herring. So let me share the screen so that you can see the PowerPoint here. So in 1 second, okay, one more time. We have unethical persuasion techniques, logical fallacies, that's the overreaching title, and then red herring is our specific subtitle. So that's the topic of this talk. Now there are different names for the red herring strategy. There is also defogging the issue, diversion, ignoratio, lynchy, ignoring the issue, irrelevant conclusion, irrelevant thesis. All of those are descriptions of the same thing. When the speaker does not answer the question and instead diverts the listener's attention and tries to take people somewhere else instead of sticking to the issue. So if we look at the dictionary definition, we will see that the first definition is a herring cured by salting and slow smoking to a dark brown color. But also here's a second definition, and it comes originally from the practice of drawing a red herring across a trail to confuse hunting dogs. So it's something that distracts attention from the real issue. Okay, so we're talking about confusing originally hunting dogs. Now, very often we're confusing the listeners or the readers. That's what it's going to be about today. Now, red herring is used in literature. It is often used in detective novels when the writer creates a diversion and makes the readers believe that somebody did something while actually it was someone else. So red herring is a kind of fallacy that's an irrelevant topic introduced in an argument to divert the attention of listeners or readers from the original issue. In literature, this fallacy is often used in detective or suspense novels to, again, mislead readers or characters, or make them come to false conclusions. So there is an example of red herring. A teacher says, you've been cheating. The student says, I know I've made a mistake, but think of my parents. They're going to be heartbroken. Why is that a red herring? Because instead of saying yes or no, there was or there wasn't cheating, we're talking about the student's parents and whether or not they'll be heartbroken. So something that is related but not directly relevant to the issue at hand. One more time, the purpose of red herring is to avoid answering a question or to discredit the stance of the opponent, basically to divert the attention from the real issue. Here's an example. Oh, that's the murder, officer. Oh, the murderer is the red herring. Bang, the officer is dead. Don't you love plot twists? It's kind of a sick example, but okay, that's what I found. Now, there is a real life red herring, and that comes from a philosophy website where they describe logical fallacies, and so they label this one as a red herring fallacy. Now, here is the quote. Here's the direct quote. No, he's a friend of mine. He's not a moron at all. He's a friend. I had a good time with him today. And that supposedly was said by Canadian Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, responding to reports that his chief spokesman had called President George W. Bush a moron. Whatever we believe about President Bush, or whatever that person believed about President Bush, that example is an example of a red herring. So Now let's look at the analysis at that website. And here's a link if you are curious, and there are more examples of different logical fallacies available there. So the source is Newsweek, 2nd December 2002. The issue is President Bush a moron or is he not? So a question, the answer to a question like that, is it true that somebody called George Bush a moron, would have been yes, he did. He did insult the president. Or no, that's not true. He did not insult the president. Instead, the person say, no, 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 he's a friend, not a moron. I had a good time with him today. So we see where the thing is going. Instead of being a direct answer, we have some kind of diversion. So evaluation perhaps it's true. So it's not necessarily a lie. It could be a true fact. So perhaps it is true that Bush is his friend. Perhaps it's true that they had a good time together. So both of those facts can be true, and that does not make it any less problematic. This information has nothing to do with answering the charge that Bush is a moron or that the Prime Minister's spokesman called Bush a moron. So Chrétien is changing the subject instead of talking about Bush's intelligence, which is the issue. Because of the fallacy, Chrétien's argument is unsound. So here's another example, and that comes from presidential debates, and I have to escape from the PowerPoint and go to the video, and I have it ready here, so I hope you can see my screen. Just in case, let me check that you see this screen, the correct one. Share. All right. So I hope you can see that. And here is the question and answer.
Mr. President, I want to go back to something Senator Kerry said earlier tonight and ask a follow-up of my own. He said, and this will be a new question to you, he said that you had never said whether you would like to overturn Roe v. Wade. So I'd ask you directly.
What he's asking me is, will I have a litmus test for my judges? And the answer is, no, I will not have a litmus test. I will pick judges who will interpret the Constitution, but I'll have no litmus test.
Senator Kerry,
is that a new question?
That's a new question for Senator for President.
Which time limit are we?
You have 90 seconds.
All right. Okay. So let me go back to PowerPoint. And so here's the transcript. I want to go back to something, and there was a question. Would you like to overturn Roe v. Wade? And this is the answer. What he's asking me is, will I have a litmus test for my judges? The answer is no, I will not have a litmus test. I will pick judges who will interpret the Constitution, but I'll have no litmus test. As pure a red herring as they exist. It is interesting that George Bush refused to answer this question. Whatever it was that made him decide to avoid giving a direct answer of yes or direct answer of no, we don't know, but we have the evidence that he gave the listeners a red herring instead of a direct answer to this pretty important question, right? Okay, so the next one also will require going somewhere else into a video, so I'll switch my screen. Just a second. Here it is. Okay. So here is the final part of a tiny little clip of a speech by a person, by a couple, father and mother, who lost their son who served in Iraq. And so I'll just play it, and so I'll talk about it a little later.
You have sacrificed nothing, and no one.
He said you wouldn't have even let his son in America.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know that. I saw him. He was, you know, very emotional and probably looked like a nice guy to me. His wife, if you look at his wife, she was standing there. She had nothing to say. She probably, maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say. You tell me, but plenty of people have written that. She was extremely quiet, and it looked like she had nothing to say. A lot of people have said that.
All right. So I'm going back to the PowerPoint. I hope you can see that. And yeah, I think that was my last example. There was, again, a very clear example of a direct question. What can you say to this person who said that his son, being a Muslim, wouldn't have been allowed into the United States? And our president responds to that by saying, oh, he's a nice guy, and his wife was standing by him, and she was very quiet. It's probably, possibly she's not allowed to speak, and then he just talks about something that is unrelated to the question. He left the question unanswered. So the question never was answered, even though the president continued talking for a few seconds. So these are the examples of red herring. And I started this PowerPoint, or this little presentation, with dictionary definition and literary definition, saying that the strategy is used not only in politics. However, in politics it is super common, and it is very popular. A lot of people refuse to answer direct questions when they know that answering them will be to their disadvantage. So they have prepared sound bites that they go to when they know that they don't want to give an honest, direct answer to an uncomfortable question. Okay, so that was the red herring. Now for your discussion, you will need to search the internet and find an example of application of the red herring strategy, and you will post a link to it, kind of similar to what I have here, but you will also describe and explain it, and you will explain what exactly is wrong with this particular example and how that is problematic and what the direct answer should have been. So some fact checking would be really nice, and I hope you can complete that discussion assignment. And it will be due Monday, but it will be open for an extra couple days. So if you absolutely can't complete it by Monday night, you have additional couple days. Okay, thanks everyone.